So we're not there yet in the book of Genesis, but remember this Gospel of Mark, this Gospel pericope, when we get to Eve's being enamored by the fruit, and from whence that the sin doesn't come from the serpent tricking her. The sin comes from within, the decision to act on that temptation. The idea that no temptation can hurt us. Temptations don't hurt us. Our willingness, our impatience, our unwillingness to suffer the temptation and to reach for the good thing, or the apparently good thing at the expense of our eternal soul. That's where the evil comes from, and that's within. I say that just because I won't be preaching that, and I want to plant that seed for when that comes up tomorrow or Friday, whenever it does. And I love it when we have these sort of long consecutive readings, so that we can actually get the whole story. The scriptures are not something that are meant to be read from start to finish anyways. They've never been understood that way. Scriptures are the Bible is a liturgical book. It's not a devotional book. Bible's not a book that you're meant to read at home. It's a book that you're meant to read in liturgy, but that you may also then read at home. But so that's why we do it the way that we do in the liturgy, is because we use the scriptures to present a theme that is Christ, and then we preach on that, and then we understand the Lord better, or our faith better, our religion, our relationship to one another, to God better, and that then redirects us back to the altar, where we say thank you to God for everything that He's revealed. So the book of Genesis here. We have this. We're going through the creation account, and here we come up with the first perhaps confusing thing. Some of you may know this, some of you don't, though, and it's for the sake of those who don't that I'm going to mention some of these details here. The creation account is Christian myth. Okay, now that might scare somebody, but I'm going to explain what that means. It's different from Greek myth, where it is a completely fabricated story, completely ahistoric, in order to manifest a meaning or a moral. Okay, Christian myth is an attempt to explain an unexplainable historical fact in language that is accessible. Okay, so the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. What kind of tree was it? Was it really a tree? Doesn't matter. They use it as an image to manifest an idea, okay, that we can't quite grasp. The creation account itself, right? While it does perfectly line up with everything that science proposes, everything from the Big Bang through the order of the evolution of things, it's nevertheless it's not interested in a factual account of how God created everything. It's using these images to try to articulate, like, how do you explain nothing? What words do you use? Well, you have to come up with a stage for nothing, and that's where, in the beginning, when the world was void and without form, the Spirit of the Lord hovered over the waters. We're using positive language to try to explain a void, a nothingness, and it's difficult. That's the meaning of the word myth when we talk about Christian myth of the creation account. Not that it didn't really happen, not that it's not a historic event, not that it's not the very beginning of time itself, but that we can't. How? Right? So we invent this story that is accurate to what was happening, but maybe not with the same. Maybe not. We're using images and realities that maybe not were present at the time. Okay, so that's an important thing to understand. The creation account in Genesis is not a historically accurate account. It is a mythologically accurate account. It manifests the truth of the historic event that happens perfectly, but with imperfect imagery. Does that kind of make sense a little bit? If not, that's okay. I say that to move on to the next point, which is, why are there two creation account stories? And they're reversed. In the first, the world was void and without form, and the Spirit of the Lord hovered over the waters, and he spoke, light, and there was light, and he saw it, and he saw that it was good, and that was the end of the first day. And then we get 7 days of that, right? Well, in the second account, in the second chapter, it's like, no, actually, when everything was void and without form, God took some clay and formed Gumby, and then breathed into him, and papa, you've got man. And then, now he's going to start doing the things, but there's nothing to do yet, so God creates all the... So why are there two accounts, and how can they be different if we say that the Scripture is inerrant? God's revelation always answers questions. It always reveals truths about himself and answers questions. If you ask the wrong question, rather, let me say that again. If you hear an answer and presume the wrong question, it won't make sense. Has anybody read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? The number 4 is 42, right? Is it 42? Is it Beth? Yeah. So the universe, all the people of the universe make this mega supercomputer to answer the question of the universe. And they spend millions of years building this thing. And finally, it runs its process and it spits out an answer, 42. But nobody knows how to make sense of that because they don't know what the question of the universe is. So they have an answer, but they don't know what the question is. And a lot of times people are confused by the creation accounts of Genesis because they ask the wrong question. They approach the creation accounts in Genesis with this question: how did God create the universe? That is not the question that the book of Genesis is answering. So you're getting an answer to a different question. What is the question then? The question is, why did God create the universe? Why? And so there are two tracks, two answers to answer that question in a cohesive single answer. God created out of nothing, out of a gratuitous love, he created humanity with no strings attached, with no need, no necessity, and no binding or encumbrance on the creature that he made, humanity. He just made him because he's love and he wanted to love somebody, and that's what he made. That's part of the answer. The other part of the answer is he made all the rest of this stuff. He made it all for humanity, and he made it this way. In the beginning, when there was nothing, he said light, and there was light, and then he made the spheres and the domes and the arches and the rain and the waters and the boundaries, and he did all that stuff. And why? Because he loved humanity. And why did he love humanity? Because he's love. That's the answer that the two accounts of Genesis answer. It's one answer that's answering the right question in a way that does not divide its answer, even though the mythological, chronological account of these things is different. If the creation account of Genesis was meant to be a scientific history of how God created the universe, there would be one account, and it would be much more in-depth and accurate than it is. But in fact, the creation account of Genesis is a caricature of what actually happened, because it's not really interested in answering the question how. When you understand the question, the answer becomes much more comprehensible. You can comprehend it. I can't comprehend myself. You can understand it, right? And so this is the way that we approach this particular part of Scripture, and it answers the question so beautifully. When we understand what the question is, and we put the answer to the question, we can be overwhelmed by the majesty and the goodness of God. Wow, you made all this for me. You made all that is for my use, so that I had something fun to do, so that I had meaningful work to apply myself to, so that I could unite my endeavors in some facsimile of your own, so that I can be procreative with you. You made me to share your free will, to be like you, to know you, to walk with you in the garden. You made me because you love me. And I continue in being because you love me. You did everything that you did for me. That's the answer to the question. The question, why did God make me? Because he loves me. Why did God make everything else? Because he loves me.